It was a prophetic question that hung in the air like a sword. Philip had recognized something that many Greeks still refused to acknowledge. Rome was already redefining what Greece meant, and traditional Greek concepts of independence and city-state autonomy were becoming obsolete. Picture the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and Western civilization. Ancient Greece, a collection of proud city-states that gave us Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, the Olympic Games, and the very concept of freedom itself. These were the people who invented theater, coined the word politics, and created the first universities. For centuries, these independent Greek polis dominated the Mediterranean world. They colonized from Spain to the Black Sea, established trading posts across 3 continents, created art and architecture that still moves us today, and developed political systems that would influence the world for millennia to come. At their peak, Greek city-states commanded the seas, their philosophers debated in marble academies, and their athletes competed in games that drew spectators from across the known world. This was a civilization at the height of its cultural and political power. But rising in the West was a different kind of power entirely. Rome, disciplined, ruthless, and hungry for expansion. Between 280 and 146 BC, this Italian republic would systematically dismantle Greek independence through a masterful combination of military force, diplomatic intrigue, economic pressure, and cultural manipulation. Our story begins in southern Italy, Magna Graecia, where Greek colonies had flourished for centuries. In 280 BC, the Greek city of Tarentum made a fatal mistake by attacking Roman ships and insulting their envoys. Desperate, Tarentum called upon the most legendary warrior of the Hellenistic world, Pyrrhus of Epirus, a cousin of Alexander the Great himself. Pyrrhus arrived with 25,000 elite troops, 3,000 cavalry, and 20 war elephants. He was everything Rome was not: a romantic, a dreamer, a king who saw himself as the new Alexander bringing Greek glory to the barbarian West. At Heraclea in 280 BC, Pyrrhus achieved his first victory against Rome. His Macedonian phalanx, supported by elephants the Romans had never encountered, initially overwhelmed the Roman legions. The sight of these massive beasts trumpeting and charging must have been terrifying to soldiers who had only heard of such creatures in travelers' tales. But what made Rome different was its ability to learn and adapt under pressure. They studied Pyrrhus's tactics, improved their own formations, and came back stronger. Roman engineers began developing anti-elephant devices, and their soldiers learned to exploit the weaknesses of the rigid phalanx formation. At Osculum in 279 BC, Pyrrhus won again, but at such terrible cost that he allegedly said to a congratulating officer, "One more such victory will ruin me." His elite troops were irreplaceable, while Rome seemed to have an endless supply of fresh legions. Fast forward to 215 BC. Rome was fighting Hannibal when King Philip V of Macedon allied with Carthage. The Roman Senate faced a nightmare scenario but responded with brilliant cynicism. Instead of fighting Philip directly with overstretched forces, Rome sent envoys to Greece with a radical proposition. In 211 BC, they concluded an unprecedented treaty with the Aetolian League, a confederation of Greek mountain tribes and cities who had their own ancient grudges against Macedonian dominance. The deal was simple but revolutionary. Rome would provide naval support and a modest subsidy. The Aetolians would do the actual fighting on land. Any cities captured would be divided. The Aetolians got the territory and local control. Rome got the people as slaves and all portable wealth. As one historian puts it, Rome was effectively using Greeks to fight Greeks while taking the profits. This alliance allowed Rome to keep Philip busy with minimal Roman commitment of troops. While Aetolian forces harassed Macedonian positions and laid siege to Philip's fortresses, Roman fleets raided coastal cities with impunity, even selling entire populations into slavery at places like Anticyra and Aureus. When the war ended in 201 BC, Rome had learned something crucial. Greek states could be turned against each other with the right combination of promises, threats, and bribes. By 200 BC, Philip was threatening Roman allies like Rhodes and Pergamum. Rome declared the Second Macedonian War, but this time their strategy was even more sophisticated. This was about hearts and minds. Roman diplomats crisscrossed Greece like political operatives in a modern election campaign. As ancient sources tell us, they were collecting charges against Philip, encouraging anti-Macedonian factions, and generally trying to raise trouble. They spread rumors of secret alliances, offered financial rewards for loyalty, and made subtle but unmistakable threats about the consequences of neutrality. They convinced King Attalus of Pergamum to join their coalition by promising him Macedonian territory in Asia Minor. They worked with Aetolian, Achaean, and even Spartan forces, turning Greece into a complex web of competing loyalties, all ultimately pointing toward Rome. The climactic battle came at Cynoscephalae in 197 BC. Philip's traditional Macedonian phalanx met flexible Roman legions on broken ground. The phalanx, designed for flat terrain and frontal assaults, couldn't adapt to the hills and valleys of the Greek countryside. The Roman manipular system, with its smaller, more flexible units, could outmaneuver and overwhelm the Macedonians by attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. In the aftermath, Greek delegates from across the region gathered at Naupactus to dictate terms to the defeated king. When they demanded Philip evacuate all Greek territories immediately, he sarcastically asked the Roman commander Flamininus, "What is that Greece from which you order me to withdraw, and how do you define Greece?" The greatest show on earth. At the Isthmian Games near Corinth, Flamininus staged brilliant propaganda. Before tens of thousands of Greeks, a herald proclaimed that Rome would leave all Greek cities free, ungarrisoned, untaxed, and autonomous. Greeks wept with joy, believing their nightmare of foreign domination was over. They showered Flamininus with honors, even granting him divine status. But behind the celebrations, Roman administrators were restructuring Greek power. While proclaiming freedom, Rome created what scholars call a number of states, none greatly outweighing others, all indebted to Rome. Rome had created a system where Greek states would naturally look to Rome to resolve disputes, gain advantages, or protect themselves. It was indirect rule disguised as liberation. When Philip's son Pyrrhus ascended to the Macedonian throne, he began building coalitions and preparing for what would become the final test of Greek freedom. Roman leaders watched with growing alarm. At Pydna in 168 BC, Pyrrhus deployed the traditional phalanx against Roman general Paulus. Initially, the phalanx pushed Romans back, but when the formation hit uneven ground, gaps appeared. Roman manipular tactics exploited these weaknesses, and within hours, 20,000 Macedonians lay dead. The last king of Macedon would march in chains through Rome's streets. Greek military supremacy was finished forever. Rome's response revealed their genius. Instead of simple annexation, they divided Macedon into 4 republics with no armies, fleets, or ability to communicate without Roman permission. Macedon still existed on maps, but politically it was dead. The Massacre of Allies. Rome's most shocking act came in 167 BC. Paulus told 70 Epirate towns that Rome simply wanted to collect treasure. The inhabitants opened their gates willingly. On a prearranged signal, Roman troops throughout Epirus simultaneously turned on the civilians who had trusted them. In a single day, 150,000 Epirotes were enslaved. This wasn't warfare. It was systematic ethnic cleansing designed to send a message. No Greek state would ever again risk Roman displeasure, knowing that even surrender might not guarantee survival. Corinth's destruction. By 148 BC, only the Achaean League remained independent. When they defied Roman orders, Consul Mummius led forces south, crushing resistance at Thermopylae and Chaeronea. The final battle was over quickly. Greek citizen soldiers were no match for professional Roman legions. Mummius declared Corinth a sacrificial offering to the gods of the underworld. Every inhabitant was murdered or enslaved. Every building was demolished. Every artwork was shipped to Rome. The soil itself was declared Roman property. Corinth's destruction ensured that no Greek would ever again dream of independence. The New Order. After 146 BC, the fiction of Greek freedom ended. Roman commissioners dissolved remaining leagues, installed oligarchic governments, and established tribute systems. Greece was open to Roman exploitation. Italian traders and administrators flooded Greek cities. Greek wealth flowed systematically toward Rome. Surviving Greek elites learned to collaborate. Those who adapted prospered. Those who clung to independence were marginalized or eliminated. The masterclass in conquest. Rome's conquest of Greece was a masterpiece combining multiple tools of power. Military force broke resistance. Diplomatic manipulation turned Greeks against each other. Economic exploitation drained resources. Cultural absorption made Roman rule seem inevitable. As Polybius observed, Rome achieved in 50 years a domination greater than any which preceded it, not through brute force alone, but through sophisticated understanding of power in all its forms. By 146 BC, the age of independent Greek city-states was over forever. Rome hadn't just conquered Greece, they had perfected a template for empire that would be repeated across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. The story reminds us that civilizations don't always fall to barbarian hordes. Sometimes they're destroyed by powers that understand how to turn their victims' greatest strengths into fatal weaknesses. Greece's love of freedom, their competitive city-state system, their willingness to form alliances, Rome turned all of these virtues into tools of conquest. Empires rise not just through strength, but through understanding their enemies better than those enemies understand themselves.